Mr. Amit Ghosh, esteemed Chair, Additional Chief Secretary, Government of Uttar Pradesh, may I request him to please join us on stage. Please join me in welcoming on stage Dr. Virender Sharma, Member Technical, Commission for Air Quality Management, Government of India, accompanied by Dr. Arvind Kumar, President, India Water Foundation. May I request them all to please join us on stage. In this session, also joining us online are our esteemed speakers, Ms. Sonja Koeppel, Secretary, Convention on the Protection and Use of Transboundary Water Courses and International Lakes, Environment Division, United Nations Economic Commission for Europe, Mr. Alain Meyssonier, President, Mediterranean Water Institute, Governor, World Water Council, Ms. Ulrike Kelm, Deputy Executive Director, International Water Resources Association, and Mr. Roi Chiti, Regional Coordinator and Representative, Pacific Island States, India, Sri Lanka, and Maldives, UN Habitat. So we extend a very warm welcome to all of our speakers who have joined us online as well, and a warm welcome to the esteemed dignitaries who have taken their seats on the dais. So we start, and I request Mr. Amit Ghosh, the esteemed chair, to please open the session and kindly take it forward.
Thank you. Dr. Virender Sharma, Member Technical, Commission for Air Quality Management, Government of India. Dr. Arvind Kumar, the Director of India Water Foundation. We have with us Mr. Alain Meyssonier, President, Mediterranean Water Institute and Governor of the World Water Council, and Ms. Ulrike Kelm, I hope I am pronouncing the name correctly, Madam, Deputy Executive Director, International Water Resources Association. We also have with us online Mr. Roi Chiti. He is the Regional Coordinator and Representative for Pacific Island States, India, Sri Lanka, and Maldives on behalf of UN Habitat. Welcome. And Ms. Sonja Koeppel, she is the Secretary, Convention on the Protection and Use of Transboundary Water Courses and International Lakes, Environment Division, United Nations Economic Commission for Europe. So, a very, very distinguished panel indeed. I congratulate Dr. Arvind for getting together such a distinguished panel. A very warm welcome to all the panelists. We shall be discussing today global cooperation for planetary health diplomacy. Now, this is something which has been brought into very sharp focus. It was always a priority. I have myself put my boots on the ground for polio elimination in India. So, I know what kind of cooperation we have received from various UN agencies like UNICEF and WHO. But in the context of the pandemic which we saw a few years ago due to the coronavirus, for the health of the people living on this planet, health diplomacy is a very, very important area. And how do we build those pathways, those networks, which will cause impact which is desired? And how can we set the agenda in the context of the overall theme for which this conference is being held, the International Conference on ESG Transversality for Sustainable Water, Energy, Health and Environment Nexus. So, Ladies and gentlemen, I would like to invite Dr. Virender Sharma, Member Technical Commission for Air Quality Management, Government of India, for opening the discussion. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Amit Ghosh, for introducing the panel. And I also see that, the panel in this case is quite heavy in terms of the, the range of speakers that we have from UN Habitat, IWMI, World Water Council, UNESCAP, and I think that to a large extent compensates the comparatively lesser amount of audience that I see here. Okay, that's the first point I wanted to mention. The second point was, as highlighted by the chairperson of this session, is the importance of this particular plenary focusing on planetary health diplomacy. And, I was looking at this whole program, which has been sort of very well put forward by Shri Arvindji, who's made a lot of efforts in if you look at the number of organizations, the networking that he is able to do is actually stupendous. And that itself, shows how he has been able to galvanize a lot of scientists, researchers, and policymakers and planners on this important issue. For me, environmental health crisis itself is an important theme of this session, and I look at it from four perspectives. Number one, how we can strengthen global cooperation networks. Second is, what are we doing about effective knowledge sharing platforms? The third is, again, was mentioned by the chairperson, actionable diplomacy in this area, and of course, inclusive strategies and policy frameworks. What I would suggest is, and again, this is suggestion to this particular panel and the chairperson and Mr. Arvind, is to add a fifth component, which is moving beyond these heavy sounding buzzwords into transformative, implementable actions with result outcomes. Because ultimately, whatever you do, whether it's in the water space, energy space, or the air pollution phase or climate change itself, I think what is more important is the actions that you do, the learning from the actions, and how you build that. So I would really want that transformative and implementable actions with result outcomes become an integral. Now, of course, since I represent the Commission for Air Quality Management, and it's perhaps the only organization exclusively focused on air quality. And there are very few organizations in the world which are focused like this. So I would like to bring this whole environmental health discussion into these four themes, but focus more on the air pollution perspective, because that's what the theme is. So first of all, the global cooperation, of course, it is urgently required. Why? Because air pollution has been ranked as the top global health risks by WHO and a lot of the other agencies working in this area. And it's not about outdoor air pollution. In fact, today, if I look at my phone, I'm seeing that we are still sitting in about 200 PM 2.5. And people, because it appears that, we don't have smoke and we don't have dust, people feel, we are in a comfortable zone and air pollution is gone, and it's only the 4 months in Delhi where you actually face this. It's not so. You're still sitting in 200. And of course, the standards, India, 60. And of course, WHO, I don't even want to mention, because even meeting the Indian standard is a huge, stupendous task. So it's not just about the outdoor air pollution, it's also about the indoor air pollution. And an important aspect in this air pollution is health, inequity, and exposure, which is who is being impacted the most. Not you and me because of the environments that we live in, but people most vulnerable are facing a disproportionate impact because of their livelihoods, lives, and this is low-income communities where urbanization, fossil fuels, pollution controls are very weak, and just because of their livelihoods, they continue to breathe high levels of 200, almost 200 PM 2.5. PM 2.5 is the smaller particles that directly enter into your lungs. By the time you realize that, the impact, I think these people, their lungs are already damaged. And again, this I'm saying based on confirmatory evidence from surgeons in Delhi who have actually looked at lungs over the period of, the last 20, 30 years and how lungs in Delhi are being impacted by that. Now, what do we do about it? That's, what is the theme of this session. And first of all is we need a shared airshed approach. I think people have spoken a lot about watershed. In fact, a lot of the themes in this conference are around water. I'm talking about the airshed approach, and that is really important, from a fragmented control to a collective stewardship. In fact, if you look at the whole Indo-Gangetic plain, starting right from Punjab, the border with Pakistan, down to Jharkhand and those areas, including UP and other areas, we are still, the whole of that area is actually representing around 300 to 400 levels of PM 2.5 in the winters. And of course, today, most of these areas are still around 100 to 200, even in this comparatively, spring atmosphere. So the pollution is actually being shaped by a number of things which are not just happening in the city, but in the airshed as a whole. And that I refer to IGP as one airshed, and it's agriculture burning across the states. So of course, it's Punjab, Haryana is focused because of rice, but if you look at the other states, similar agriculture burning is happening. In fact, wheat burning is also happening, is likely to start in April in some areas. Industrial clusters, vehicles and transport we know about. Dust transport itself is a big area, big issue in the Aravalli and the regions, and meteorological inversion. And that's why I think it's not about technology and instrumentation, it's about a governance challenge. How do you address air quality through governance? And that is where I think we need regional inclusive strategies. I mentioned to you the Commission for Air Quality Management. Of course, you've got the Central Pollution Control Board, the state boards, the National Green Tribunal, the Supreme Court and others. But what is really important is in terms of implementation, it's the urban local bodies which are central in this, transport, roads, municipal solid waste, because all of that, being a multidimensional, cross-sectoral and cross-government issue, everyone is impacted by that. And that's where the emissions are coming from. So we need some harmonized approaches to that. Globally, things have actually moved ahead. For example, if you look at the World Bank, UNEP and others, they are looking at this airshed approach. And that's why, this cooperative airshed framework is important as the first theme. My second theme is around effective knowledge networks. And an integrated knowledge system so that air quality moves beyond siloed monitoring to more integrated knowledge systems, which would mean utilizing AI, satellite and ground sensor information, integration with the public health. The Ministry of Health and Family Welfare has a climate change air quality cell, which looks at that, linking these two, economic impact, and important is citizen science participation. For citizens, air quality is about two things, smoke and dust, धूल और धुआं. अगर वो धूल और धुआं दिख रहा है तो आपको लगता है कि एयर क्वालिटी खराब है. अगर अब आजकल नहीं दिख रहा है तो आपको लग रहा है ठीक है. नहीं, ऐसा नहीं है, क्योंकि 200 एयर क्वालिटी PM 2.5 में अभी भी हम बैठे हैं इस कमरे में. So it is requires some actionable diplomacy. What is, we are talking about South Asian, the IGP, if you expand slightly wider, it's also a problem, when crop burning happens in Pakistan and all, it's actually drifting downwards in the winters. Similarly, a lot of our areas in the IGP, Indo-Gangetic Plain, including UP and other areas, are facing similar levels of crop burning, which is actually crop biomass burning that is there. And so it is important to have a longer term focus, to look at a collective accountability framework. Now, one of the things that I wanted to highlight in this actionable diplomacy is this focus on climate change and GHGs. I have been a climate change advisor for about almost 20 years with the British government, first with the Asian Development Bank, and of course now I'm with the government of India. But this longer term focus on GHGs, net zero is fine. But air quality is an issue which is there today. You cannot, these are short and medium term actions that have to be taken on PM 2.5, PM 10 and NOx. And they cannot wait for your 2035 and 2040 cycles, which is net zero and all. So you have to take these actions today. In fact, most countries in the world started off with dealing with air quality issues, and then most of the Western countries, in fact, most of the other panelists would be talking about it, have actually addressed those issues and now looking at net zero and the longer term issues on climate change. But without addressing fundamentals around air quality, we are directly impacting our lives, livelihoods, and our public health. And it's very important to distinguish between long-term actions of climate change with the short-term actions that are required for air quality management. So finally, what do we need is a regional cooperation and beyond regional cooperation, knowledge networks and diplomacy, some more strategic vision from crisis management to system transformation. How does that happen? Now, Delhi NCR, we are already seeing a public health and air pollution emergency. Most of us know CAQM by the GRAP, the graded action plan that we institutionalize in the winters, but you are still in GRAP 1. So every year, the whole year, you are in GRAP 1 stage, and it's only in the winters you start moving to stage 2, stage 3. But these are all temporary bans and preventive actions. What we really need is some more systemic actions on structural emission redesign and focus, more shared responsibility, year-round mitigation. People think that CAQM only works in the winters. No, it is actions that we do now which are critical for dust management, for parali management, for municipal solid waste, for transport, for DG sets, industry, a lot of these areas that are actually going to impact the air quality that happens towards the winter when dispersion is less. Year-round mitigation. So my concluding thought is that we need to have a shared shared approach. We need to look at it from a public health and air pollution governance perspective. As I said, we have got about 100 continuous air quality monitoring systems in Delhi NCR. Is that sufficient? Of course, technology-wise, you can actually have more. But it's actually the information that is coming from there, which is the action on the ground that needs to be taken, which is where the real gap is. So I think we need to focus more on having cooperative atmospheric governance and turning this crisis into an opportunity for longer term transformation. Forget about the longer term net zero. You have to deal with the air pollution day in and day out because of the impact it is making on people's lives, livelihoods. Children, women are particularly more impacted. So my final message is, let's look at co-design and co-creating, working with communities who are most impacted, having more results outcomes, and then, as I said earlier, having a focus on continual improvement. We need to learn, experiment, fail, and then continue to develop new strategies to deal with this. That's the only way. You can talk about Beijing, China has done it. You can talk about Chicago has done it or London has done it. I think there's no shortcut to it. It's the hard way that they've done it, and we have to do a similar thing. So that's my plea to you, that, under this global cooperation for planetary health diplomacy, let's get more focus on the impending issues of air pollution, which are directly impacting our lives, and ensure that people who are most vulnerable are the ones who get the first level of protection, so that, people, the constables on the road, people working on garbage dumps, they are the ones who get most impacted. By the time they realize, their lungs are already damaged because of the severe levels of PM 2.5, and the necessary action is not taken. So I hope this message can be communicated. Thank you very much for the chair and Shri Arvindji to give this opportunity to me. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Virender Sharma, for sharing your thoughts and views on the 4 aspects, as you put it. Your address has been, actually a call to action. So I cannot help but mention that 10 years ago, or maybe 12 years ago, the state of the cities in China in terms of air quality was probably as bad as what obtains in India today. In fact, in the last decade, there was a study done which said that about of the 100 cities in the world which were most polluted, more than 50% were from China. But they have got their act together, they have scrubbed their air, and it is calculated that about 0.56% of the GDP is shaved off because of the air quality, poor air quality in India. So thank you for, raising our consciousness about the problem, drawing our attention. We will keep your ideas in our mind as we go ahead. Now it is my privilege to invite Mr. Alain Meyssonier, President, Mediterranean Water Institute, Governor, Water Council. Sir, I am told that you were to be here, but due to certain circumstances, you have not been able to join us in person. But here we welcome you and request you to share your thoughts with the distinguished audience over here. Thank you so much.
Invitation. I really apologize don't be there with you, but it was very complicated for me to come at this moment. And so good afternoon for you, estimated colleagues, partners and decision makers at this prestigious conference. Dear water friends, as we said at the Mediterranean Water Institute, IME, Mediterranean Water Institute, that I have the privilege to share since 2019, is a think tank dedicated to the integrated and sustainable water resource management in the Mediterranean, where climate, demographic, and geopolitical challenges intersect explanatory, as we can unfortunately still see these days. My speech addresses global cooperation for planetary health diplomacy, a transversal imperative for the water, energy, health, environment nexus, aligned with environmental, social, and governance, ESG principle, following 4 considerations. First of all, the Mediterranean nexus can be considered as a lab for the planetary health. In the Mediterranean region, which we know well in IME, water is a nexus pivot. recurrent droughts and floods, transboundary pollution, and demographic pressures threaten not only water and energy supply, but also public health and ecosystems. Our analysis from the Mediterranean process highlight how integrated water resource management, integrated water resource management enables economic, social, and environmental synergies across energy, food, health, and land use sectors. We advocate treating the environmental as a full-fledged sector, which a right to water to preserve biodiversity and ecosystem services. If we want to develop nature-based solutions in the future, this is the only way. The ESG transversality, environmental, social, and governance, is essential. It integrates water quality into energy decision, like renewable desalination, and health measures preventing waterborne diseases. At IME, we observe that without cooperation, use conflicts between agriculture, energy, and health intensify, as a transboundary basin like the Jordan, the Tigris, or Nile rivers. The second consideration is about planetary health diplomacy towards global cooperation. Planetary health transcends borders. It links human, animals, and ecosystem health in the context of climate crisis. IME promotes water diplomacy as a tool for the planetary health through ongoing intersectoral dialogues and adequate representation of local actors, including women, youth, and vulnerable communities. This includes modern tools like early warning system for flood and drought, in innovation to pursue more and consume less, produce more and consume less. Globally, this diplomacy relies on multilateral partnerships, observatories of excellence to share experiences, financial institutions taking into account virtual water and carbon footprints, and transboundary diplomacy for shared stability. Consider different programs of cooperation on water transboundary or JWP-MED initiatives for water quality and climate resilience from source to sea. This Mediterranean example illustrates diplomacy that uses water as a lever for peace and health. The third consideration is about ESG transversality driving the sustainable nexus. Under the Water Transversality Global Awards 2026, IME calls for enhanced ESG transversality. ESG is not a buzzword. It is a framework to ally green investment, E, social equity, S, and inclusive governance, G, for the water, energy, health, environmental nexus. This table, we consider ESG dimension for the environmental point of view. Nexus application would be water, energy, renewable synergies, and the IME example is a green desalination observatory. For the social part, Nexus application will be public health and equity, and our example, climate, water health, early warning. For the governance, transboundary diplomacy. For Mediterranean, we consider the Mediterranean integrated water resource management process. This table shows how IME operationalizes transversality for measurable outcomes. The fourth consideration consists in a recommendation for effective planetary diplomacy. To realize this cooperation, at the 2026 Conclave, IME proposed First, developing solidarity water diplomacy, intra and inter-basin, inspired by transboundary methods. Second, creating a Mediterranean Center of Excellence for the Nexus, fostering technological and regulatory innovations. Third, prioritizing public-private partnership with startups for biotech solution and health environment. And fourth, integrating planetary health into SGDs via ESG aligned financing and digital diplomacy for shared monitoring. This action will turn challenges into opportunities, a resilient Mediterranean as a global model. As proposed by the Plan Bleu, Blue Plan, which is an organization depending on UNEP MAP, Mediterranean Action Plan, by strengthening science policy practices interfaces, harmonizing monitoring systems, investing in capacity development and integrating economical valuation into decision-making, the Mediterranean region can fully translate the One Health vision into effective coordinated action. To conclude, dear participant, dear water friends, cooperation for planetary health diplomacy is our compass. At IME, we are ready to share our Mediterranean experience for the Water Transversality Global Awards 2026. Let us work together to integrate ESG criteria and create a lasting bond. Water unites us all. Thank you for your attention.
We all heard Mr. Alain Meyssonier, and he began with some observations on those factors which are, critical for sound global health governance. He went on to speak about how to develop trans-border structures and pathways for cooperation, especially in the area of water management, with strong focus on equity. We are indeed reminded by him of the great importance of this whole concept of equity, because inequitable access to natural resources is perhaps the biggest index of lack of proper development, proper social development, proper socio-political development of a community. Thank you, Mr. Alain Meyssonier. We appreciate your thoughts and your advice in this regard. We will continue this discussion on planetary health diplomacy and how global cooperation can be brought about in a better manner. For this, we invite our next panelist, Ms. Ulrike Kelm. She is the Deputy Executive Director, International Water Resources Association. I understand you were also to be with us today, but due to circumstances, you have not been able to make it, but we accord you a warm welcome and request you to share your thoughts and give us your guidance. Thank you.
Thank you very much for this warm welcome. And yes, circumstances kept me home. Dear ladies and gentlemen, distinguished colleagues, dear fellow speakers, it is really a great honor to speak to you today on behalf of the International Water Resources Association. My name is Ulrike Kelm, and I'm the association's Deputy Executive Director. Let me begin by thanking the organizers, especially the India Water Foundation, for bringing us here together in New Delhi. I'm As I just mentioned, I really regret that I cannot be with you in person. I really had truly hoped to join you, but circumstances are there, and yeah. It is a pleasure to join you today on this important discussion on global cooperation for planetary health and diplomacy. When we speak about planetary health, we must recognize one essential truth. Sorry. None of the challenges we face exist in isolation. Water, energy, health, and the environment are deeply interconnected. Yet too often our governance systems do not reflect this reality. From the perspective of the International Water Resources Association, IWRA, this is one of the central challenges we face today. Across many governments, the elements of what we call the water, energy, health, environment nexus are still managed in separate ministries, departments, and policy processes. Water may sit in one department, energy in another, health in a different ministry, and environment protection somewhere else. But these issues themselves do not respect the administrative boundaries. Take water scarcity as an example. It is not simply a water management issue. It is closely linked to climate change, energy production, ecosystem health, and ultimately human health and well-being. Reduced water availability affects energy generation, environmental stability, and the spread of water-related diseases. Addressing such challenges requires integrated thinking and coordinated action. Yet our institution often encourage siloed governance, where each sector works independently. The result is fragmented policies and missed opportunities for effective solutions. This is where science, expertise, and informed decision-making become crucial. Political contexts change rapidly. Elections and shift in political leadership can transform national priorities and programs. For this reason, strong connections between scientists, experts, and policymakers are essential. Political decision makers need access to reliable knowledge and interdisciplinary expertise to make informed choices. At the same time, decision makers themselves must work more collaboratively across sectors. If we want to address planetary health challenges effectively, we all must move beyond siloed governance and embrace integrated approaches. Encouragingly, when political leaders recognize the urgency of these interconnected challenges, we often see a strong willingness to adapt policies, listen to scientific evidence, and take the necessary measures. A place where this integration can happen is conferences like this one. Many of us attend conferences regularly, but the real question is, how do we go beyond business as usual? Too often we speak mainly within our own professional circles. If we want real progress, we must broaden the conversation. We need to bring in other disciplines and sectors, including social sciences, economic, public health experts, and industry. Water and environmental challenges are not only technical, they are social, political, economic, and cultural. Conferences should therefore serve as bridging platforms, reaching beyond the traditional water community and engaging a much wider set of actors. This becomes even more complex and more important when we consider water diplomacy, especially in the context of transboundary waters. Shared rivers, lakes, aquifers demonstrate how interconnected our world truly is. Negotiating agreements between countries is rarely only about water. Differences in demographics, cultures, economic priorities, and political systems all influence how countries approach shared resources. Understanding these broader contexts is essential for successful water diplomacy. Currently, in many international discussions, countries are often grouped according to income levels, low, middle, or high income. While this can be useful, it may not always capture the realities that shape cooperation. Perhaps we should also consider other ways of understanding countries and regions, looking at political structures, culture, contexts, demographic dynamics, or governance systems. These factors often determine how policies are adopted, how cooperation unfolds, and how decision makers engage with scientific knowledge. For political leaders to truly commit to action, they must believe in the decisions they are making. And they can only do so when those decisions are informed by credible knowledge, relevant expertise, and trusted partnerships. This is precisely where IWRA seeks to contribute. For more than 5 decades, we are turning 55 this year, by the way, the International Water Resources Association has worked to bridge science and policy, connecting researchers, practitioners, and decision makers around the world. As an independent, non-partisan, and strictly non-political organization, IWRA provides a neutral platform where knowledge, evidence, and expertise can inform policy discussions without political alignment or advocacy for particular national interests. Over these decades, we have organized 19 World Water Congresses, bringing together experts from multiple disciplines and regions to exchange knowledge and develop solutions. The most recent Congress took place in Marrakesh, Morocco last December, and preparations are already underway for the 20th World Water Congress in Istanbul in 2027. We have also developed new Congress formats to focus on communities that are often overlooked in global discussions. A good example is our Islands Water Congress, dedicated to the unique water challenges faced by island states and communities. The second edition will take place this December in Jamaica. Beyond our platforms, IWRA actively contributes to international policy processes. We work with partners across the global community to support initiatives such as, for example, the upcoming 2026 UN Water Conference, helping ensure that scientific knowledge informs global water governance. To strengthen regional engagement, IWRA has also established geographic chapters around the world. These chapters allow us to work more closely within regional contexts, recognizing differences in cultures, demographics, governance systems, and local challenges. They create space where scientists and policymakers can interact directly, share knowledge, and develop context-specific solutions. In a world of growing complexity, planetary health diplomacy requires bridges between disciplines, between sectors, between countries, between science and policy. Water connects all of these dimensions. If we are to address the challenges of our times, from climate change to water scarcity to ecosystem degradation, we must move beyond silos and embrace collaboration across boundaries. And that collaboration must be informed by knowledge, guided by diplomacy, and supported by platforms that bring diverse voices together. IWRA remains committed to contributing to this effort. Let me close with this thought. Water connects our planet, our societies, our futures. Our solutions must be just as connected. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Madam Ulrike Kelm. You, with your 55 years of organizational experience and wisdom, began with a reference to the siloed way in which all these 4 areas of what we have called transversality for sustainable development, water, energy, health and environment, uh, how they are dealt with differently. And you have ended it with your call for building bridges across sectors. You have highlighted how science and governance and policy making can come together for finding better solutions. It has been an excellent presentation from your side. We deeply appreciate your thoughts and suggestions, and we hope that they will lead to further discussions in the conference to which, upcoming conference in Istanbul to which you referred, and other conferences to be organized in India by India Water Foundation. So, thank you very much. Now it is my honor to call upon Mr. Roi Chiti, the Regional Coordinator and Representative, Pacific Island States, India, Sri Lanka and Maldives from UN Habitat. Mr. Roi Chiti, the floor is yours and we are eager to hear you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Ghosh. I hope you can hear me well. Can you hear me?
Yeah, Mr. Roi Chiti, we can hear you very clearly. Kindly go ahead.
Excellent. Thank you so much. Thank you, Mr. Ghosh. And of course, it's a pleasure for me to join this panel with such distinguished panelists that I would like to greet warmly. Let me start with this sentence. Safe water and health are not optionals. They are fundamental human rights. They are the foundation of life, dignity, and development. They are crystallized respectively in Goal 6 and 3 of the Agenda 2030. Unfortunately, the global water crisis is evident and it is intensifying. Roughly half of the world's population today faces severe water scarcity, at least for part of the year, highlighting growing pressure on freshwater resources. Renewable water available per person has fallen by 7% over the past decade, and the effects of the climate change are adding to this challenge. Water quality is also deteriorating. Inadequate wastewater treatment, agricultural runoff, and emerging pollutants mean that only 56% of monitored water bodies met good quality standards in 2023. These conditions directly threaten health, with 2.2 billion people lacking safely managed drinking water. With more than half of the world population living in cities not providing clean water to our urban dwellers, is more than just a technical shortcoming. It is an urban governance failure and reflects the gap in fulfilling our shared societal responsibility. India, as a big country, is a paradigmatic example. A few years after the independence, I would like to remind that per capita water availability stood at over 5,000 cubic meters. Today, it has fallen to less than 1,500 cubic meters. And by 2050, the country may cross the 1,000 cubic meter scarcity threshold, a level associated with acute stress. As India now advances toward Viksit Bharat 2047, municipal water demand is expected to surge by 80%, and yet 40% of the urban supply is still lost through leakage. And 70% of wastewater returns to the environment untreated, conditions that fuel waterborne infections, and chronic health risks in urban and peri-urban communities. But India is also demonstrating what transformational progress can look like. The Jal Jeevan mission has delivered already top connections at unprecedented speed, showing that national scale-up is not only possible but achievable. States are beginning also to adopt, and I have witnessed that, district-wide leakage management systems, expanded wastewater treatment capacity, and they have invested in reuse, turning what was once waste into a resource for agriculture and industry. But as a representative of UN Habitat, an organization with the mandate to support governments, national, local governments and stakeholders in housing, shelter and sustainable urban development, I must say that the unfinished frontier, however, lies in informal settlements. As you know, globally, for the more than 1 billion people living in slum, water insecurity intersects directly with health. No land tenure means no utility connection, and risk of contaminated sources increase exposure to disease. Solutions are emerging from community-managed standpipes. These are some examples, and micro-utility models to the integration of WASH and primary health services. Nature-based solutions were also mentioned by the speakers that preceded me, are also the gaining ground, using wetlands, vegetated drainage corridors, and urban green infrastructure to naturally filter water, reduce flooding, and improve the safety and reliability of local water sources. Looking also at the economic cost of our inaction, this is also another staggering feature. The World Bank and multiple organization assessments warn that water-related crises already cost India roughly 6% of its GDP each year. And similar figures, of course, are also interesting many countries around the world. This is driven by lost agricultural productivity, disrupted industry, and health-related burdens. If current trends continue, India could face GDP losses exceeding 14% by 2050. This is an incredible figure. And this is due to escalating water stress and climate-driven disruptions. These losses are not just microeconomic figures and abstractions. They are felt in hospital wards, on factory floors, and across the livelihoods of millions of people. Contaminated water kills around 200,000 Indians every year, weakening the workforce, lowering productivity, and placing immense strain on public health systems. Water scarcity also forces industries to shut down operations and push households, especially women and children, into time poverty as they secure daily water needs. So this, just to be clear, investment in urban water is not a welfare expense. It is a health-generating, GDP-protective, climate-resilient investment. An investment that returns economic dividends by reducing disease, stabilizing supply chains, safeguarding growth trajectory. Then there is the gender dimension that we cannot forget. Around the world, women and girls spend hours every day collecting water, hours taken from learning, from earning, and from participating fully in the society. Hence, gender-responsive water diplomacy is not peripheral. It is indispensable to delivering lasting solution. But how do we bridge these gaps? The panelists already highlighted several areas of opportunities to be strengthened. I summarize some of them: data and monitoring for evidence-based policies. Others mentioned multi-level governance, multi-sectorial and cross-boundary approaches, innovation and co-creation of solutions that have to ensure that the most vulnerable segments of the society are not left behind. And of course, an increased international cooperation, multilateral cooperation and efforts, including through networking and knowledge platforms. In all this, and to accelerate durable solutions in cities and human settlements, decision makers, governments, and relevant stakeholders can now align with the new UN Habitat Strategic Plan 2026-2029, which places housing and informal settlements transformation at its core. By integrating water, sanitation, housing, land interventions, the plan promotes holistic upgrading, ensuring that water health improvements reinforce broader goals of dignity, tenure security, and resilient urban development. Associated to the plan are methodologies and tools continuously developed by the organization, and focused programs and initiatives are launched to support governments, decision makers, and practitioners. Let me mention one of them, the UN Habitat Global Water Operators Partnership Alliance, that maybe you know with the acronym of GWOPA, which plays a pivotal role in strengthening the technical and managerial capabilities of urban water and sanitation operators worldwide. Over the past 15 years, GWOPA, through the not-for-profit water operator partnerships, has supported more than 500 utilities in over 70 countries, serving an estimated 50 million people directly. By enhancing efficiency and sustainability within water utilities, GWOPA sustains and expands adequate service provision, especially in underserved urban areas. As I'm reaching the conclusion now of my brief intervention, let me also extend an invitation to all of you to the upcoming 13th session of the World Urban Forum, to be held in Baku from the 17th to the 22nd May this year, with the lemma "Housing the World, Safe and Resilient Cities and Communities." The forum that since 2001 is acting as the major platform for all representatives from around the world to discuss and exchange views and organize actions on sustainable cities and human settlements will be also an interesting perspective, will provide also an interesting perspective and solutions on the topics of today's discussion. After the World Urban Forum in December 2026, the world will gather in the United Arab Emirates for the UN Water Conference, the first in 50 years dedicated to accelerating the SDG 6. India, as a nation of 1.4 billion people and a rising voice in the global south, has both the credentials and the responsibility to lead these outcomes. Having scaled the world's largest sanitation and water programs, Indian cities must shift from being data recipients to knowledge exporters. The challenge is immense, but the moment is real, and the reforms underway today can convert the water health trap into a water health dividend, one that strengthens resilience, protects the lives, and accelerates the journey toward a healthier, more equitable future. Thank you very much for having me today.
Thank you, Mr. Roi Chiti, for your very, very erudite and learned exposition of the problems being faced, especially by people who live in socially and economically disadvantaged places like slums. You mentioned that about 2.2 billion people do not have access to safe water. You brought out how contamination of water leads to public health challenges. And you mentioned that from hospital wards to industrial floors, everywhere, the centrality of safe water is paramount. Thank you for your invitation to the entire audience for the upcoming conference in Baku. We appreciate the issues highlighted by you. We assure you that not only the panel but the distinguished audience, the record keepers of the conference, they will take into account the suggestions made by you, and these will find due reflection in the proceedings of this conference. We are very grateful to Mr. Roi Chiti. Now, we have a video recording from Ms. Sonja Koeppel, the Secretary, Convention on the Protection and Use of Transboundary Watercourses and International Lakes, Environment Division, United Nations Economic Commission for Europe, and I request the organizers to kindly play the message from Madam Sonia. Thank you.
Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, dear colleagues, it's a pleasure for me to speak today at the second edition of the India Water Transversality Awards and Conclave 2026, which aims to discuss how to address demographic, economic, social, and climate changes, exerting pressures on natural resources and water, with spiraling effects on other sectors such as health, agriculture, education, industry, and energy. When heads of state adopted in 2015 in New York the Sustainable Development Goals, they recognized that such challenges can be better addressed together through cooperation across sectors and borders. Since globally more than 60% of freshwater resources are shared between 2 or more countries, water cooperation through, for example, exchange of data, coordinated action, joint institutions, can actually foster regional integration, sustainable development, and peace. The SDG indicator 6.5.2 measures progress in this regard and encourages countries to establish operational arrangements for water cooperation. The fourth reporting cycle for this indicator is just about to start, and UNESCO and UNECE, we are the co-custodian agencies and would like to encourage South Asian countries to report. Indeed, South Asia is geographically unique, but connected through mountains and rivers that countries share. The Himalayan glaciers, the water towers, which are source to some of the world's most iconic water systems such as Indus, Ganges, Brahmaputra, and Meghna, require as much protection and conservation as the rivers themselves. India has some of the very large west-flowing peninsular river systems that are perhaps older than the Ganges, Brahmaputra, and Meghna. These Himalayan and peninsular river systems have been replenishing life, culture, ecology, and well-being, but are under threat due to the rise pressures which I mentioned earlier on. This creates risks for health, energy system, food security, migration, etc. It's therefore important to address such challenges in an integrated nexus approach. In this regard, I would like to share the information about unique, now global legal and intergovernmental platform and framework within the United Nations system that helps countries to jointly manage shared water resources. The 1992 United Nations Water Convention is now a global legal and intergovernmental platform which has for more than 30 years helped countries to manage shared water sustainably in an integrated way and peacefully. As an active global convention, we have been supporting countries in various ways, including by strengthening national legislation, promoting regional cooperation, facilitating joint monitoring, and providing a platform to manage shared water resources. We've also been helping for 20 years now countries to jointly adapt to climate change through guidance development, capacity building, exchange of experience, and pilot projects in the framework of the Task Force on Water and Climate, which is co-led by the Netherlands and Ghana. We also highlight the importance of water and cooperation in global climate processes, for example, by organizing a joint side event with India Water Foundation and other partners last year at the Bonn Climate Change Conference. Last year was also an important milestone for the Water Convention because Bangladesh joined as first country from South Asia. This brings a great opportunity now for other countries to engage and understand the Convention's approach to help countries manage shared waters jointly. Indeed, the Water Convention is built on parity among upstream and downstream countries and promotes basin-level cooperation based on IWRA and the source-to-sea approach. The Water Convention has also been active in Asia in recent months and years, for example, by organizing together with many regional partners such as ESCAP, IUCN, GWP, ECMOD, and others, a Pan-Asia training on international water law in Bangkok in December 2025, which was attended by government and non-government stakeholders also from South Asia. As we prepare for the 2026 United Nations Water Conference to be held in December in the United Arab Emirates, a large number of preparatory meetings are being organized. And I would say this meeting also supports the preparation for the conference. Indeed, civil society-led knowledge and engagement platforms such as this Conclave are critical for sharing information, knowledge and experiences on water and water cooperation and its sustainable management. I hope that during these 2 days, participants can jointly discuss the challenges, potential solutions and partnerships in order to sustainably manage water and short waters in the region and worldwide. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Ms. Sonja Koeppel, Secretary, Convention on the Protection and Use of Transboundary Watercourses in International Lakes, Environment Division, United Nations, Economic Commission for Europe. Your call for action and your reference to the 2023 conference and the decisions taken and the way ahead will continue to guide us, especially the work being done by you in Asia, South Asia, and your reference to the Himalayan water systems, the peninsular rivers of India, how they are under threat, have highlighted the necessity for quick and concerted action in India also. I would like to thank all distinguished panelists for having given very learned expositions. We have today heard about air quality, river management, water and transboundary solutions. We have heard about how international cooperation should happen across sectors, and finally we have heard about how water quality and public health are closely intertwined. This has been a very, very useful discussion. I congratulate Dr. Arvind Kumar for having put together such a distinguished panel. A lot of takeaways for all of us here and learning which will be of use to all of us in the years ahead. Thank you very much. Thank you, dear panelists, and thank you, dear members of the audience.
Our thanks to the esteemed chair and our esteemed and distinguished speakers. As a token of our appreciation and thanks, we would like to present a small token of our appreciation to you. May I request Dr. Arvind Kumar to please do us the honors. We start by thanking the esteemed chair, Mr. Amit Ghosh, Additional Chief Secretary, Government of Uttar Pradesh. Thank you for your presence here today, sir. We thank Dr. Virender Sharma, Member Technical, Commission for Air Quality Management, Government of India. Thank you for your presence here today. We also thank our esteemed panelists who joined us online, Ms. Sonja Koeppel, Mr. Alain Meyssonier, Ms. Ulrike Kelm, and Mr. Roi Chiti. Thank you for your contributions. We now move on to our next session.